Region where hundreds of thousands of people have been killed, millions displaced in what the U.S. government terms a genocide. George Clooney is among those lending his star power to this cause. I spoke with the actor about his recent trip to Africa. We were joined by Samantha Power, who won a Pulitzer Prize for her book, Problem from Hell, America and the Age of Genocide. Samantha Power, George Clooney, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Welcome back. Why did you go?
Well, it first started, I was reading Nick Kristof's articles in the New York Times, and he had just come back.
He's the Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist.
Sitting next to another Pulitzer Prize winner, and I'd read Samantha's articles and her book, and felt like it was probably a good time to cash in whatever celebrity credit card you get from having a good year on bringing some attention.
What do you want? What do you hope to achieve? What's the single most important thing you want to achieve from your journey out to Africa?
The single most important thing I want to achieve is to try and help make sure that it gets on the air, that people see it, that people are talking about genocide, which they're not in general, and not just in this country, in the whole world. But if I show up in places, sometimes cameras follow, and that's a good thing because then we can have these conversations and help, perhaps, the administration and the UN and all the people who actually want to do something about this, but they don't have the political capital.
You mentioned what Nicholas Kristof wrote. He wrote this, and it seems to sum up the world's attitude, especially Americans' attitude, toward what's happening in Darfur. Mr. Bush is paralyzed for the same reasons as his predecessors when faced with genocide. There is no great public outcry. There are no neat solutions. We already have our hands full, and it all seems rather distant and hopeless. I think that sort of conveys what's going on right now in this country as far as the horrors what's happening in Sudan.
But it's interesting how quickly things aren't hopeless when people, a group of people, American citizens, European citizens, suddenly stand up and say, okay, wait a minute, let's take a look at this. This is the first time that I know of that someone's talked about genocide while it's going on. Well, there's an opportunity there for the people to stand up and say, okay, now let's make this simpler by saying we're going to make it we're going to make this important enough that that could make it easier for the administration to do something.
Give us the numbers, Samantha. You're an expert on what's happening in Sudan and Darfur. Give us the numbers of the horror. What's involved right now?
Well, it's been called a slow-motion genocide, but that, I think, underplays what's actually happening. About 400,000 people have died so far. 2 or 3 million people have been displaced. 2 million we know about because they're holed up in camps. Well, they're called camps. They're basically in these wide fields, dependent on handouts when they come, when aid workers are actually able to brave the Janjaweed patrols that surround the camps. And those people remain incredibly vulnerable. But the attacks are even continuing. Just 3 or 4 days ago, the Sudanese government again launched Antonov and helicopter gunship attacks at another village. There have been 80,000 people displaced just in the last 2 months alone. So that number of 3 million, which is just almost plucked from the sky because we can't access the people who are in need, we know one thing, and that is that it's increasing. We also know that the Sudanese government has become more and more obstructive, that they're expelling aid groups, not allowing even senior UN and U.S. officials into the camps. And of course, we all know from the 20th century what happens when a government that is intent on committing genocide also knows that people aren't watching. It does it really with abandon, and it counts on impunity.
How do you explain that 60 years after the Holocaust, after Rwanda and Burundi and what's happened in the Balkans, that this kind of thing can go on in this day and age?
Because and it happens a lot with us, we've spent a lot of our political capital in other places, and probably Iraq would be one of them. We certainly have not the greatest relationship with the UN. So there's a lot of other elements that are playing. China has not been very forthcoming with sanctions against the Sudanese government. They're getting a free rein because they're getting oil by themselves without competing with America right now. It's a tough situation to solve, but if we're able to just protect some of these people and then start some diplomatic measures, we have a chance.
Let me give you a couple of quotes that you made in recent weeks, and we're almost out of time. I want you to have a chance to respond. The Sunday Times of London quoted you in December as saying, "The Democrats were scared on Iraq, and the truth is they backed themselves into a corner. They didn't have the political resolve to tough it out, and now they are paying the price." What did you mean by that?
Well, I think that, there was at a time when the issue was you're either with us or with the enemy as we were going into the war. I think that there were a great many Democrats that didn't truly believe that all of that, the ideas that we were tied to Al-Qaeda, or that not we were tied to Al-Qaeda, but that Hussein was tied to Al-Qaeda, or that they had anything to do with 9/11. I think there were a lot of Democrats that didn't buy into that, but many of them didn't stand up, and I think that it cost them in the elections.
You said this about the junior senator from New York, Hillary Clinton. You characterized her as the most polarizing figure in American politics.
Yeah, but that wasn't, believe it or not, that wasn't an insult. Someone was asking me, can she win? And I said, I think that she absolutely can win. She is polarizing. People in one side of the country are, adamant against her, and people on the other side are, you know this better than anyone. You've seen this for a while. There are very strong feelings on either side for Hillary Clinton. I'm a Democrat. I like her, but she is certainly polarizing.
Thanks for your good work. Thanks for making the trip. Hopefully it'll result in something tangible. Tempted to say to both of you good night and good luck, but I'm sure a lot of people say that to you. Samantha Power, thanks very much. George Clooney, thanks to you.
Thanks, Will.